All right, so as Jake pointed out, I am going to be discussing failover, 3 different areas of common solutions that we provide failover for Clear8 communications and our clients. Essentially, what is it and why do you need it, or why should you have it? So in short, my name is Trevor. I've been with Clear8 for about 6 years now. I'm the Network Operations Manager. I have a little over 20 years of experience in telecommunications and networking. I got my start in the United States Air Force. Then from there, I worked with Sprint Communications, primarily in the mobile communications division for a little over 10 years. And then I moved on over to Clear8 Communications. My expertise lies primarily in voice switch operations. It tends to be where I focus most of my energy in support of Clear8's customer base. So what is failover? Essentially, failover is insurance. It's insurance against downtime. It is, for Clear8's purposes, automatic, meaning that you don't have to worry about it. A lot of customers, especially their IT personnel, they do have some type of failover or backup solution available to themselves, but a lot of the time it's of a manual variety, meaning that their service has to go down hard, and then a tech or another individual needs to take action to actually physically switch that service over to the secondary or backup solution. So we avoid that need. With that in mind, obviously, the automatic failover solutions that we offer are complex, or at least they can be. And because of that, we expect to have technical personnel on our client base to essentially hand over control of the failover operation. The reason being is that there's a lot of complexity involved in making sure that this stuff fails over near real time and essentially seamless to your operation. So in a lot of respects, you won't even notice that you've taken a momentary hit to your service, if at all. So how this operates or how this works in terms of a semi-technical format is we configure what are called probes within our routers that manage the failover portion of the solution. And what these probes do is they go out to the internet, predetermined destinations, and they attempt to get to them via some type of ping test. If those keep alives, for whatever reason, go down or they stop being responsive, then the router determines that that path is no longer available, and it just naturally switches over to the secondary connection, however that is configured for you. And it could be an alternative ISP or some type of 4G wireless solution. So why do you need failover? Well, essentially, it's very simple. It's insurance, and it protects your bottom line, and it protects your revenue stream. And we did some case studies of our own and came to the conclusion that about 98% of organizations say they will lose approximately $100,000 in revenue just with 1 hour of downtime. Obviously, that's going to vary depending on the size of your operation. That seems a bit extreme, but it does illustrate for you the seriousness of having any type of service disruption. So obviously, you want to protect against lost revenue. You want to protect against additional labor costs, because if your phones and internet are down, and you rely on those to conduct business, and you have a bunch of employees that are sitting around now not doing anything, they're not producing any business for you, and they're not obviously productive anymore, so your labor costs go up. And then there's obviously the thing that you can't recover too easily, and that's damage to your reputation. If you manage some type of call center where your phone operations are critical, you rely on internet for invoicing or purchasing, you run some type of 24-hour center that requires real-time services to your client base, and they now cannot get a hold of you. Now, in a sense, you're not reliable, and so that you take a hit to your reputation, and maybe you can recover that fairly quickly, but in most cases, it's that will degrade over time. So that's what failover does for you. It protects against that. So you simply have to ask yourself, how much would an hour of downtime cost you, realistically? You obviously don't have to answer me, but you sit down and crunch the numbers. You'll find that it's actually going to be fairly significant. So, how do you lose primary service? Well, what's going to leave you in the dark ultimately? We live and work in Michigan. We're not immune to bad weather. In fact, primarily that's what's going to take out your primary service, right? We're going to have bad storms, windstorms, rainstorms. Water and electrical and copper services tend not to mix too well. Catastrophic failure to the power grid. Somebody plugs too much equipment into an overloaded transformer and it burns up. Now, obviously, the power company is going to work to restore service to that power line before they restore your communication lines. That's just the order of restorative prioritization. So, cable theft. This is an actual legit problem. Copper's valuable, and thieves will go and they will find opportunities to actually steal a bunch of communication copper right off the phone poles, and they'll turn it in for cash. So that's a legit problem. Animals. This is a real picture. And he was chewing on some electrical wires, and he's going to have a bad day if he actually gets through the cladding there. But this is real. This is legit. We actually had a customer that was down for a day or so because there was a bunch of mice that decided to make a home in a cable tray, and the field techs had to go out there and actually clear them out. So yeah, that's a real deal. We found this picture here. Thought this was kind of funny. Shark, I don't know of an incident where a shark actually managed to bite through underwater cables. But if you know anything about sharks, they're real sensitive to any kind of electromagnetic frequency, and so they use that to hunt, and obviously they're going to bump up against anything that's giving off any kind of EMF, so that's what that guy's doing there. This is a real article here. Not only once, but twice did a woodpecker managed to break through a fiber optic connection housing. Yeah, I'm not sure what they were making those housings out of, but that woodpecker was really intent on getting inside of there. And if you know anything about woodpeckers, they are really masters of breaking into hardened structures. So that was really that was not any difficulty for that guy there. So, and then finally and foremost, this is actually kind of funny. I dug this up. Human error. I can guarantee you that our biggest problems out there are, at least in Michigan, construction. I mean, there's probably one of these things every 100 feet right now, especially during the summer months. And although they're supposed to pull permits and they're supposed to have MISDIG come out and they're supposed to identify these fiber optic paths and these underground communication paths, invariably, an overzealous Bob the Builder is going to get in there with his backhoe, and he's going to yank that cable right out of the ground, and it could take hours, maybe even a day or 2 days to get that service restored. And in the meantime, they're working as fast as they can, but you're kind of at the mercy of physics and time, really, at that point. So this is why some type of backup or failover solution, especially of a wireless variety, is critical to your operation. So, all right. So when we get into the three different areas that we provide failover solutions for. We'll go from common to less common to least common. The most common one that we offer here at ClearRate is we are a phone company, first and foremost. We are transitioning and taking on a lot of additional services to include our voice switch operations. But the one thing we like to offer is failover for your voice traffic. Okay. And one of the common ones we have are, blending of new technology to old technology, and that would be the form of like some type of VoIP backhaul SIP trunk, failing then over to a traditional ISDN PRI phone trunk. And so you're thinking maybe older technology, something that's more traditional, maybe it's more of a legacy system. You can still use it, it's still operational, but it's not your preferred means of communication. In the converse of that, maybe you have a call center that's using a legacy phone system. It's critical that you have outbound call traffic from that dialer system or call center platform, but in the event that you lose your T1, you want it to fail over to a SIP trunk that's routing ClearRate's internet service or some other alternate ISP, we can do that for you as well. This one is actually fairly common, SIP trunk to SIP trunk. We have a means of setting up multiple peers for you in that your phone system can talk to our voice switch over multiple communication paths. Your primary one works fine. If it goes down, your traffic fails over to the secondary one. And more often than not, you're not even going to notice. And then this one, which we do a lot of because we are a hosted PBX provider, is for customers that have, let's say, ClearRate voice service T1 with hosted PBX writing that, and you'll get the voice quality of service assurance, ensuring that your voice quality over that communication line is clear and crisp. Your backup or your primary internet would be some type of cable provider if you're not with ClearRate for some odd reason. We could set up our failover router to send your voice traffic over that backup cable internet. Although you may lose some audio fidelity because you don't have quality of service over that anymore, it's better than being down hard. And so that's part of that service assurance that we offer you. So that being said, I had mentioned some of our common ones. One of the more frequent examples we have are SIP trunks on ClearRate's network, which fails over to a secondary SIP trunk on an alternate ISP. And if you want to know more about how that is technically set up, I encourage you to speak with one of our sales agents. They'd be more than happy to talk to you in detail regarding how that service actually looks. The second common failover solution we have is Internet Failover. Obviously, internet being very critical to a lot of business operations now. I mean, you need essentially 100% uptime for this. I mean, people can go a little bit without their phones depending on their business operations, but I don't know anybody that can really go without internet. So what we have here for common solutions is ClearRate as your primary ISP, which fails over then to an alternate ISP. And that alternate ISP can be a lower speed service. Primarily, you would think ClearRate with broadband fiber to perhaps maybe some type of cable internet or even DSL, something that may potentially be less fast and less reliable, but therefore still a resource that you would want to take advantage of. ClearRate primary to LTE, this is the one that we definitely like to sell. You would have, again, for example, a ClearRate broadband fiber, and then in the event that there's an issue with that service, again, Bob the builder gets out there with his cable finder and he destroys the fiber optic link, your traffic will seamlessly fail over to the wireless 4G network, and you may or may not even notice a blip in your service. More often than not, you won't. And then there's ClearRate primary to ClearRate secondary. This is a little less common. We do have customers that have high-speed internet through some type of Metro Ethernet or broadband fiber service. And then they may have DSL that's set up primarily for maybe their customer Wi-Fi solution, but we could configure your failover service to utilize that in the event that there's a problem with either or, and they can switch back and forth. And then less common, but still somewhat frequent, is the alternate ISP, which would be some type of cable internet service or DSL service not provided by ClearRate, failing over to ClearRate secondary. And we have a lot of customers that like to have ClearRate voice services because we're really good at that. And as an example, we'd have like ClearRate broadband fiber to cable internet, broadband fiber to 4G LTE failover, and ClearRate cable internet to ClearRate T1, with the T1 primarily being set up for voice services. And that's a fairly common solution. And again, if you have any questions as far as how we could best set you up to utilize these, I strongly encourage you to speak with anyone in our sales team. They'd be more than happy to discuss the technical portions of this at length. And then last but not least, and this is coming up more and more, and I really wanted to touch on this just a little bit today, are actually faxing failover solutions. The reason why these are coming up is we still have a lot of customers that love to do faxing, especially for invoicing and ordering. And if their fax line is down and they cannot get their purchase orders in or their invoices in, it really hampers their ability to conduct business effectively and efficiently as they would like. And so a lot of times we're ending up on the fly having to put in some type of backup faxing solution for them. And we'd rather do this just naturally, seamlessly in real time. And so what that would look like for a lot of our customers that have voice services with ClearRate, we install like an Adtran 900 out there that acts as a voice gateway. It'll have some analog lines configured on that, and that's what a voice analog port stands for, VAP stands for. And we'd have that failed over to something, a pre-designated eFax number. So you're not getting the physical fax into your fax machine now, but it's failing over and it's sending you an email of that faxed invoice or purchase order. It may not be as ideal, but at least you're not losing the communications, you're not losing the information, you're not losing business. Same thing, a more traditional tap line, which is a TDM analog port. It's more of a legacy type service, but again, we could have that fail over to some type of predetermined or predefined eFax service for you. And then ClearRate's on-net POTS line, or plain old telephone service, or plain old telephony service. We would do the same thing, just basic failover to eFax. I keep stressing the eFax. We like it. It works. It's operational. It's stable. And you could do vice versa. You could have eFax, and it's less likely that that's going to go down for you at any given point. But there you have it. So, and again, just a simple example: voice line from ClearRate Adtran router with a call forward no answer, or some type of call forward variable. In the event that that service goes down, the call routing is going to flip that traffic over to your backup solution, which would be an eFax. So, With that being said, I have a brief demonstration here I'd like to show you. We've set up a fairly common solution that we deploy here. In this case, we have a ClearRate Cisco LTE router that is going to be taking in your primary service. In this case, a couple of T1s that we have set up connected to our network, which is then handing Ethernet traffic off to a ClearRate managed firewall in the form of the AdTran 900 here, which is acting as the DHCP server and the firewall for a couple of hosted phones that we have programmed here on our hosted PBX network. We also have integrated into the solution is a managed power over Ethernet switch by ClearRate, and that provides you your Ethernet connectivity to your PCs as well as power to your hosted PBX phone. So let's see if we can make this work here. Okay. So, can you help me, sir?
What?
Can you hold on to that?
Sure.
Okay. Now you're connected over our T1s here through this router. So go ahead and hold that up to your ear. Let's see if we can hear you through the phone.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, good. Everybody can hear him? Kind of, sort of? All right. Let's say we got Mr. Inside Wire Cable guy. He's getting a little zealous because he's cutting a bunch of lines and doing a bunch of rewiring. And he doesn't realize that he's actually going to destroy your primary internet service. Boom. It's going to take about 3 to 5 seconds for that voice traffic to converge over the new path. I hope. There you go. There you go. So now you are failed over to the 4G wireless solution. So your call didn't drop. And you notice a momentary hit in your voice, your audio stream there. And maybe you suspect something might have happened. But more often than not, you're not even going to notice, especially with your internet connectivity. So thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So that's it. All right. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
How many phones can the LT thing have?
You're talking like an actual number of phones?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know off the top of my head. I'd have to actually crunch some numbers on that. We have customers that have LTE failover with probably good 80 phones sitting behind them. But I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the bandwidth utilization, and I think it's going to be contingent on the actual placement of the LTE signal itself and how much bandwidth you can get from the wireless carrier at that point. But you would figure the average hosted PBX call or VoIP call is going to take about 96K, and you got a good 40 or 50 meg download from that 4G solution. So it's a lot. So, yes, sir.
What happens then when primary services return?
Again, it's going to take about 15 seconds for the router using its probes to determine that your primary path has been restored, and then it's going to seamlessly switch your traffic back, whether it's broadband fiber, T1s, Metro Ethernet. Now,
is it just the initial call that takes that long to route, and then after that, all incoming will come to the 4G?
yes,
Okay.
yes, that's correct. So, any other questions?
Is it just a $40 to $50 a month charge for the cellular service?
I'm not really sure, sir. I handle the technical back end. Sherry and her team is definitely who you want to discuss that with, sir. Apologize.
We do have a few options. The standard offering is $99 a month for 4G LTE failover. That gets you 1 gig of data to tide you over until service is restored. A lot cheaper than $100,000 an hour, which may not be any of these businesses. But
Right. Well, fine. It's not $100,000. Maybe it's $1,000. Maybe it's $2,000. Maybe it's a hit to your reputation. Whatever it's going to cost you, think about what it's going to take to recover that. That's the real value. So, any other questions? Thank you.